The trade period is officially in the books, and that means Will Brodie is officially a Port Adelaide player and officially back on the top of the SuperCoach watch list. This is the Phantom speaking. Welcome to the post-trade edition of the Phantoms. Lair, H, Kenny, Chief here with me in the Lair. Big show to talk about all the big SuperCoach relevant moves. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, we said we're going to have a big break after the last show, and we're like, we got too excited after the trade period. We thought we might just do another one before season 2026 really kicks off. And
the truce continues because our friend over in Melbourne, our _SuperCoach, is back on the Phantoms there. 2 in a row. He was snubbed the whole of 2025 after snubbing our man Jason Horne-Francis, but he's back. Welcome.
Thank you, boys. Great to be here. Yeah. A huge trade period, as we all know, and lots of names that we could be talking about in terms of SuperCoach 2026, not just necessarily those players who moved clubs, but the dominoes that fall when that happens, creating some openings and some other opportunities. So, yeah, plenty to get into.
Chief, it was a big, as I said, some big names there. Last year was big, the trade period for SuperCoach. Who will be the Bailey Smith or Caleb Daniel of 2026?
Well, I think we already talked about the guys we were excited about on the show, on our last show, looking at our 2026 players we're excited about for 2026. And pretty much all the players came to fruition who we were excited about. So I'm looking at a guy like Sam Flanders, who we'll get to, who made his way to St Kilda. Very excited about him to be the Bailey Smith, to your point, of 2026. But there's so many names to get through.
Sam Flanders, the Bailey Smith of 2026, can average 110 plus.
Yep. Quote it up. Send it out.
I know you're behind in the quote card game, but that's
the one. That's the one. But I like the point that Al made. That is actually what I really like looking forward to. It's not just the names of the players that are coming in. It's the fact that the players going out make room for some new bargains in SuperCoach that we maybe aren't thinking about as much as the players in their new colours. So players that are in their existing teams who now have opportunity with a few of the names moving out. So that's something I'm really looking forward to talking about, which we will talk about as well on this show.
Well, the death of Rowan Marshall in SuperCoach.
Sad times.
R.I.P.
Sad times. Shall we get into the big names, though? We need to talk about the big names. We can't bury the lead. And let's get some thoughts from Al to start with on
Connor Butterick. We're not starting with Connor Butterick. Who are we starting with?
Let's start with Christian Petracca, traded from Melbourne to Gold Coast. Al, what are your thoughts on the move? And we spoke about him in the 2026 pod last time that we spoke, but looking likely that he'll get the forward status as well for 2026, which makes him pretty relevant.
Yeah, I mean, that's the huge one, really, that, we have some of those stats, and when those positions are finalised, probably after the draft, we'll get the full list, but we think he will be a forward mid again, and that definitely brings him into calculations. But it'll be a pretty stacked forward line, actually, looking at some of the names we know about at this stage already. So it'll be interesting to see whether we can squeeze him in. So averaged 96.5 this year, which was his lowest for a few years. But is he going to be able to get back to that 110 plus? I mean, I think he absolutely adds to Gold Coast. They're just going to be a very hard team to beat next year, but they have a pretty stacked midfield as it is. So is he going to be more of that sort of permanent half forward, maybe some bursts in the guts, where I think he'll still score pretty well, but is it enough to push him back up into that super premium territory? We think he'll be priced, in the low 500s, maybe around that 520 mark, which will be pretty tempting. But yeah, there'll be a few different names in the mix there in the forward line. So I'm not locking him in at this stage, but I think he'll definitely end up the year as one of those top forwards. It's just whether you pay up at the start of the season.
You're a big watcher, Chief, on the Gold Coast midfield. Like I said there, where does Track fit in? Is he a second rotation man?
That's just something we're going to have to look at it in preseason, isn't it? Because it is a stacked midfield now. Noah Anderson and Matt Rao, they're not moving out of there. So it's just a matter of, in that third string of midfield, because he has that forward craft as well. How much does a Touk Miller play in there? How much does a Bailey Humphrey play in there? Those are the two big names probably that he'll have to, shift out. I think realistically he's going to play a fair bit of mid-time, and we know with his history he's going to be, close or over that 100 mark. But yeah, to that point, I don't know if he's necessarily this huge improver, but it's just he's going to be a top forward this year, like coming. So I'm happy to start him.
This is your number as well. Estimated 2026 price, 516K, roughly or thereabouts. So that'll be tempting regardless if he averages 3 figures.
Just we always talk about upside. It's like there's probably going to be some names in the forward line with much more upside. It's whether you want to go the value or you want to just go the solid, he's going to be a 100 guy. Let's just lock him in as a top forward for the year.
Now, what about his teammate or his former teammate now, Clayton Oliver, officially a GWS giant, average similar again in the 90s, back down a lot lower than what we know he can do at his best, average 92 this year. Chief has estimated his price under 500K in 2026. Midfielder only, Clayton Oliver at the Giants. Do you like it?
Well, he was under 500K this year. I feel like we've been here before. And yeah, he didn't quite. I think if you told us at the start of the year he'd play 22 games, you'd be pretty happy. You'd think that he was in for a decent season. But yeah, 92.5, definitely well below what he's capable of. And I think he went up maybe 20 grand or something over the course of the year. So he's in that awkward spot where he's not really a cash cow. Is he going to be a premium? I mean, where do you think he fits in at the Giants when you've got Finn Callaghan and Tom Green, obviously your man, sort of the number 1 and 2 clearly there. But I think, the Giants obviously see a role for Clary coming in to support those guys. Is that enough to push him up back into that uber primo sort of territory?
Looking at those centre bounces, Al, and this is where I probably think Clary could have a chance to return value in 2026. Tom Green and Finn Callaghan, to your point, the top centre bounce at 10Ds. We know we've talked about what this is going to be called in 2026, the top throw up, the 10Ds, whatever we're going with. The third in line for them in terms of just a pure midfield, according to DFS Australia here, Stephen Cornelio, who obviously had a small sample, 43% was the next in line. And then you had guys like Toby Bedford, Harry Rouston in the 30% who were playing their role on occasion. There is no obvious third option. And now Josh Kelly as well is going to miss plenty of time, so he's not going to be back in there. It's clear to me it's probably just going to be a really heavy rotation of Green, Callaghan and Clayton Oliver, and I think he'll just be straight into his regular role. It's just a matter of how far can we see him returning to his best, because we know at his best he's a 120-plus SuperCoach player. Can he get back to his absolute best at GWS?
Could be angry Clary as well.
Yep.
With a point to prove, you'd think.
Based on his recent social media activity?
Yes. So if he has a similar crack on the field, then we could see an uptick. It'll be a very close watch over the preseason, how he's going on the track, how he's fitting into life up there in Sydney. That's stable, coming together okay. Then
You're tempted.
I'm leaning towards you, Chief. I don't always like to say it because you're a bit off the mark sometimes, but I don't mind. He'll be definitely high on the watch.
It's going to be tougher though. He's priced 10 points more than he was in 2024. And again, like we all were keen to start him at the start of last year, priced at the 84 mark, which we thought was a bargain. He only went up the 10 points. So you're paying more this coming season and you're expecting, if you are paying up, you're going to hope that he returns to the 4 seasons in a row prior to the last 2 seasons where he averaged 120 plus. So you want a big return.
I've got him in a keeper, and I'm now going to hold after the move. So I think we'll see some sort of improvement. But it means the Demons midfield is going to change.
Yep. D's mid's going to change. And the next player I am actually remarkably excited about for 2026. I think he'll actually be a pretty popular starting selection, and we're talking about all the experience leaving Melbourne. Who comes in? You mentioned a guy in our last podcast, Harvey Langford could be a nice option for next season, but now they've got a bit of veteran leadership next to him, and not just some veteran leadership. A captain, reigning captain at St Kilda, Jack Steele, moves across to Melbourne. Al, are you as excited about this pick as I am? Going across for a 3rd round pick, he did. Jack Steele lands at the Ds.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy how that all unfolded. I have picked Jack Steele in the past, and it's worked out pretty well for me. So does make me, think favourably about him, and I do love him as a player. And he definitely got the raw end of the pineapple from Ross Lyon at the end of the season where I think he was the sub in one game and he was playing in the forward pocket in a couple of other games. So really pushed out of the Saints at midfield, and that means his price is a bit deflated for us. Again, sort of looking in that low 500s, sort of Petracca, that sort of range, which definitely is underpriced based on what he has done in the past. And as you say, it's going to be Max Gawn and Jack Steele are going to own that midfield, aren't they? So I think Jack will appreciate that, having Max there, and Max probably as well having Jack in there, along with, as you say, probably some new faces and some of the younger guys. So I think there's definite potential for him to score more than what he's going to be priced at. It's just going to be, how many of these mids can we pick, and are we looking for 10 points of upside, or you want to go for more than that? But yeah, there's definitely going to be value there. And again, talking about guys with a point to prove and just someone who want to get out and enjoy his footy again, I think Jack definitely ticks all those boxes. He's had a few niggling injuries over the last few years and carried a few things again this year, I think. So we want to hopefully make sure he's got his body right. But yeah, definitely someone who's on my watch list.
Can you see a scenario, fan, where the new coach decides, nah, look, we just shipped off these veterans out of our team. We didn't want Clayton Oliver, a bit of a slower moving midfielder in the modern game. Jack Steele, similar operator. Is there any scenario you see the new coach, nah, we're running the young guys here. Jack Steele's here for leadership. We love that. But he's not playing that pure midfield role that we're used to.
Yep.
You think that's a
Harvey Langford will have more impact than Jack Steele next year than Melbourne. I'm not saying right now, I might have a quote card for you coming up at some point in the preseason, but I won't say he's going to average more SuperCoach points just yet, Harvey Langford, but impact on the side and how they're changing, Stephen King's changing that side, Harvey Langford will be above Jack Steele in what happens on the field, I think.
Now let's talk about another player that was high on everyone's watch list, but things changed quite quickly in the trade period based on another move that didn't happen. But let's talk about Tom De Koning first. Moves from Carlton to St Kilda. Everyone's pumped. No. Everyone's excited.
Who's pumped?
You know what?
We're not pumped.
Well, he was on my never again list that we forgot to do at the end of the last show. TDK was going to be on there. And this was before we knew the news. Rowan Marshall staying at St Kilda. Lots of rumours that he asked for a trade to Geelong. Didn't happen, Phantom. Has this ruined both of their SuperCoach potential for 2026?
Yep. That's it.
They're done.
Line through both.
Al?
Yeah, I agree. Can't pick either of them.
Yep. Bang. Move on.
It's tough.
RIP.
I
did like TDK's. He was going to be even cheaper. Well, he will be cheaper than he was this year. But I don't think they know. Marshall pretty much said that he didn't know how this is going to work with the two of them. So, and we saw, Darcy and Jackson made it work, but Grundy, Gawn, no. So yeah, big watch for the Saints how they do it. But we can't go there in SuperCoach.
It's disappointing. Two options ruled out for us, popular options. I think there is a scenario where TDK ends up being a valuable pick because they have brought him across. Does he just get the mantle as the number one ruck? There's a reason Rowan Marshall was asking for a trade. Is it because he sees the line in the sand? They're going to play TDK there. He's going to have to play forward. Still could return value, but yeah, I'm not going to go there myself at all.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen. And TDK will be the number one ruck.
He could be a pod.
When you've got Rowan Marshall there, he's not a 90% number one ruck, or 85% number one ruck, or 80% number one ruck. You just have to use both assets.
No, but they are going to be a great duo just for AFL purposes, maybe not for SuperCoach. And they will be tapping down, Al, to my man, Sammy Flanders.
Will they?
Who said himself, he sees himself as an inside midfielder. We've already talked about him on the previous show. But Al, have you got a quote card for us maybe for Sammy Flanders? How big's he going to go in 2026?
Oh, I think we just have to clear the floor here for you to wax lyrical about Sam. But we know what he did a couple of years ago, average 119. But it all just comes down to whether he starts in that St Kilda midfield.
Yeah, it was all down to his messaging for me. What role that he saw himself at. Yep. The reason he's going there is because he's playing inside midfield. Lock him in.
Like I said last time, doesn't matter what you think of yourself. It doesn't matter what he wants at St Kilda. It only matters what one man wants. And he's not only the coach anymore, he's a football boss.
The boss.
Could he be the president and the CEO soon? The midfield coach. If Ross doesn't like what Sam Flanders can do with midfield or does in the midfield if given a chance, he'll be gone.
Well, I'm also president fan of the Sam Flanders fan club. So I'm going to have a word to my fellow pres.
Sam Flanders, do you think he could play a VFL game next year?
No way. No chance.
Could it happen at
no
one point?
No chance whatsoever.
Well,
the thing is, he's going to be owned by everyone. So if he wasn't, we're likely that Sam Flanders is going to have forward status, and at his price, estimated under 400K, I think he'll be owned by majority of the competition. As I said, the Bailey Smith of 2026. So no need to really talk more about him. I wish he was more of a point of difference, but Sammy Flanders is going to be back on everyone's radar. Which
might be a good antipod.
Charlie Curnow, not probably as sexy a SuperCoach name, but was one of the biggest names in general in trade period fandom. Do you have any thoughts on him for SuperCoach?
Not sure yet. Good for Sydney. He's going to have a lot more skillful players and a better midfield kicking the ball to him. Smaller ground up there. Does it work for him better? I'm not sure. Going to be cheap. Given what we're probably going to have in the SuperCoach forward line, though, still makes it hard. But we'll be watching to see how it plays out. If you play SuperCoach draft format out there as well, definitely one to keep on the watch list. We know what he can do at his best. And we saw some of the delivery he got from the Blues last year. Obviously, with his body as well, he can be fully fit with Errol Goulden lacing him out. Might not be a complete write-off in Classic either.
What are your thoughts, Al? I know we traditionally sort of don't go for the key forwards, but, someone like a Sam Darcy has broken that mould in recent years. And Charlie Curnow was one that we could pick when he was hitting his straps just a couple of years ago.
Well, he's one I did pick, and a few of us picked a couple of years ago and pretty much derailed my season. But we have to put that in the rear view mirror because I think there is definite value here. I think the issue is going to be, as Fan mentioned, that we're going to have some really good options in the forward line, even if he does pass on to Flanders. We're talking about Petracca. We think Harry Sheasler will be a forward mid this next season. So is there a spot there for a sort of 370K key forward? But, his average, that's based on a 69-70 average. In 2025, that's well down on what he's done in the past. Can he add 20 points to that? I think yes. Could he even go above that potentially? Maybe we'll watch the fixture. If the Swans open the season against Richmond and North and Essendon and West Coast and some of these teams, there's a chance for him to maybe come out of the blocks early and put some good scores up and just make some quick cash. I think there's something there. So finding that price always difficult, but I'm definitely not ruling him out.
All right, another huge name that did not leave and was probably the, biggest, well, let's be honest, the biggest name that was talked about this trade period, Zach Merrett. We didn't necessarily bury the lead here because he didn't go anywhere. But the implications, Phantom, I think maybe a little bit more widespread than that in SuperCoach, and we could see some actual bargains next year based on the result of him staying at Essendon. And I'm talking about another player that actually left Hawthorn. So they were expecting Zach Merrett to arrive. We saw James Worpel walk from Hawthorn to Geelong as a free agent, averaged 75 this year. So not big name in SuperCoach, and probably not one that I'm looking for at Geelong either, if I'm being perfectly honest. But what I'm talking about here, he had 63% of the centre bounces this year at Hawthorn. Those are being replaced by now no one coming in. Merrett's not coming in anymore. That's just 60% of their centre bounces gone. You've got Will Day, hopefully, because he only played the 6 games. So, if we're just looking at Will Day again, he's huge on our watch list. But could someone like Cam McKenzie, a Josh Ward, maybe even a Pencil, step into that role? Al, what do you think on that? Is that maybe thinking a bit too far, but Worpel is out of the mix? Is it just an easy Will Day swap, or could we see some value a bit lower down in the Hawthorn pecking order in the midfield?
Yeah, no, I don't mind. I like your thinking here, Dossie. I think, Day obviously a big injury watch. Can he get his body right? But Ward was the one who really stepped up. I've liked Cam McKenzie for a while, picked him a couple of times in SuperCoach, but Ward was the one who got a bit of an opportunity late in the season and put up some pretty decent numbers. Scored 100 against the Crows in that semi-final. So, there are going to be some awkward prices in the sort of 300-400K range. But, you're definitely right that there's a big hole now in the Hawthorn midfield. Zach Merrett-sized hole they thought they were going to fill, but didn't happen. So, interesting, sort of a list strategy from the Hawks. have they been able to improve when they were, obviously pretty close this year? How do they bridge that gap? And they're saying it'll be from, the development of these younger guys. So, Phantom, you probably watched them, in their, coming through the draft in the last 2 or 3 years as well. Is there one there that stands out for you? I mean, Pencil was mentioned potentially as trade bait himself, but that didn't happen.
Pencil is the one we do want to see. We're still waiting for him to be able to pick him on field like the Chief put up midway through last year.
Henry Hustwaite, by the way, for any new listeners, don't know the Pencil.
But has that, there has been opportunity there and he wasn't picked. So I'm worried about how Sam Mitchell sees him in that setup. Cam McKenzie, like I mentioned, we know the Hawks love him. Didn't want to let him go as part of any trade during this trade period. Our said, we've spoken about him before, we've picked him before, but it all comes together, more opportunity, more consistency from him. He could be the one that takes the bounce in SuperCoach. Got picked 10 in the draft. That'll be a close watch too, in terms of who they pick. If it's a midfielder, if it's a ready-made midfielder, could he come in straight away? So, not obvious yet, but we'll have to wait and see, I think.
Yeah, I think it's Ward or McKenzie. I think one of us will be making a hot take preseason. One of those guys is going to break out. I might be leaning towards Josh Ward. I just remember his AFL comparisons at the time he was drafted was, in fact, funnily enough, Zach Merrett and a combination of Zach Merrett and Tom Mitchell. So 2 guys that we've known in the past can really rack up the pill. 133 average back in the Coates League for Josh Ward. So he's known to be a scorer. It's just a matter of getting that bigger role. So I'm going to be Josh Ward breakout watch 2026 for me.
I think Cam McKenzie's a better player than Josh Ward.
Okay, fair enough.
I think.
Speaking about better players, perhaps the best in the AFL, Brayden Fiorini moving from Gold Coast to Essendon. Operation Fiorini
Can you sing your
succeeded.
Song? For those who don't know, before his time here at SuperCoach, you were famous for your songs about Fiorini.
Yeah, look, there's about 3 or 4 in the past, so they've all been archived for professional purposes.
Well, we've got it. We've got the files. It depends what you do this year, could be released.
We might release them at some point, but yeah, Fiorini. Oh, I'm a big fan. In fact, the 3rd highest averaging wing in the AFL this year, behind the likes of Errol Goulden and Steele Sidebottom with a vintage display. But Al, I'm going to throw to someone not as biased as I am for my man Fiorini arriving at Essendon. There's talk that he's going to be playing wing again. That's what they've kind of brought him there for. That's what Matt Rosa has said, and that's what Fiorini himself has said on the likes of Trade Radio. This is a guy that I want to see playing inside midfield. Priced at 95 this year, it's going to be tough to be starting with him, but would he be on your watch list if we do see that inside role emerge?
Yeah, I was listening to that interview that he gave, the day or so after he was traded. And when he said he was looking forward to playing on the wing, I nearly drove off the road. I was like, surely, Essendon's been looking for a quality, midfielder for a long, long time. They brought in a couple of guys around the edges, and I thought this is the one. He walked straight into their centre bounces. Only attended 8% of centre bounces this year. Still averaged 95. So as you said, had a really good year. And there's obvious potential for that to go up. He had a little patch later in the season for 4 or 5 rounds where he was getting 20-25% CBAs, and he averaged about 105 in that period. So even if he can get up to that level, there's definite upside. Again, we're talking awkward price. Could you start him? I think you would want to see a more permanent midfield role. But those early noises aren't what I wanted to hear. I don't want him on a wing. But as Fan said, maybe it doesn't matter what the player says. So we'll see where he ends up. Maybe if there's, if Essendon has more injuries like they did this year, he might have to go in there. So if he's playing in the centre square, I do like him a lot.
No, I agree. All about the role.
Goat potential.
Fantasy pig playing in midfield.
Yeah, 38, 8 and 8, or whatever it was in the VFL. Just like when he has the role, he's just incredible. His footy IQ's off the charts. Let's get to your man. You'd probably call the GOAT if you could. Will Brodie. He made his way. You've made your hot take. You've got your quote card in the bank this year on Will Brodie. Do we need to say any more?
Well, I said he was traded for pick 103, which will probably what we average in SuperCoach as well in 2026. But we know he's slow. We know the game almost went past him a little bit. What Freo were trying to do, where he fits in to Port's midfield is an interesting question. Is he better than 2026 Ollie Wines? Not sure. Asked a few Port fans that, Ray. They said no. So it will just be how new coach Josh Carr uses Connor Rozee and Jason Horne-Francis. We know Zach Butters not going anywhere next year anyway. Rozee at halfback. Horne-Francis, depends how much time he spends forward, where Will Brodie fits in. But again, like Fiorini, all that opportunity. The opportunity's there. Then at the price he could be, rookie priced, he could be, and probably should be if he's starting round one, the most owned player in the game.
Yeah.
At the price.
He'll be a guy we all just lock in. We don't even need to think about it. And he'll probably be, in our team picker teams, he'll be the guy that you just put in there and hope that he plays in preseason. But big preseason watch. Gun inside mid if he gets the role. A couple more names here, probably moving down into our more hopeful basket. And this is a guy that won't be starting the season on the field, but a guy that maybe you look at in your drafts as a late swing and a bench stash. Sam Draper. Al, what are your thoughts on Sam Draper? He was a guy that some people even brought in for season 2025, looking at a forward option that he was this year. And he was in some serious hot form before he unfortunately went down with the Achilles injury.
Yeah, I think that forward status is the one thing that does keep me a little bit interested, forward ruck. So there's not many of those floating around. As you say, he's coming back from an Achilles. So whether he actually gets up for round one will be a question. And obviously if he's not there, then you couldn't pick him in Classic. But I'll be watching him. He's averaged, I think about 5 years ago when he first came in, he scored 120 in his second ever game, and we've all been very keen on what he does since then, and he's averaged around the 70s ever since. But he did spike that last year and had a couple of 100-plus scores before he went down with that injury. He thinks, walking to Brisbane, I think when he's fit, he'll be their number one ruckman, maybe a bit of Oscar Allen backup up there with the Big O retiring, although he's still got Darcy Fort floating around, dual premiership player as well. So it'll be an interesting watch, but maybe one more for draft.
I've got a quote card for you, Chief. Al. There's only one relevant S Draper in 2026, and he plays for the Crows.
Wow. Okay.
Forget Sam. It's all about Sid.
Is that it?
That's
I
it.
don't know if that's going to make it to the quote card. You need to be a bit hotter than that. What do you got? What's he going to average?
Sam's irrelevant. Sid is not in Supercoach.
All right, keep a watch on him. But a guy that we did have a quote card for, I want to say 2 years ago, Fant's big off-season call that's often forgotten. I should bring this back up, to be fair. End of 2024, Phantom said he's the lay-down Mazaire lock breakout candidate for 2025. Absolute gun. It was Jamarra Ugle-Hagan. You were huge on him taking his game to another level in 2025. Obviously, things did not pan out. But now that he's been traded to Gold Coast, what are your thoughts on Jamarra Ugle-Hagan?
We didn't know about some of the off-field issues at the time of that recording.
Yep.
Just a trend of what he did in the previous season. Definite watch. Going to be very cheap from what he can produce. If he can settle up there on the Gold Coast, on and off the field, he's going to have a great midfield kicking to him. As we said, Suns are going to be even harder to beat this year. Going to win plenty of games. Can he get on the end of it if he settles up there? You've got his estimated price, $250K for Jamarra. So, again, that's a nice little price bracket we like in the forward line. A few top-end premiums, rookies, and sometimes you're looking for another player to fit in there in between. He could be the one.
Any other names during the trade period? I'll start with my favourite, and then maybe we can talk about some others, because there's so many names to discuss. I think only certain few more are actually relevant in Supercoach. But one big name
Who's your favourite?
Dev Robb, and it's not even, I don't think he's even officially signed yet, but apparently moving from West Coast from Brisbane. Surely he gets a spot.
If he does, lock him in. Lock him in.
You know another name which...
Averaged.
Go ahead.
Dev averaged 13.5 this year. But it was the sub in all those games. So he actually lost value, I think, even though he started about 130K. But he'll be very, very cheap. And
we've seen him perform at Brisbane when he's been given the opportunity. So he could be the biggest winner of all with the removal of the sub rule.
Yep. It'll be a big watch as to who else West Coast kind of bring in as well in this draft period, and maybe some extra signings that we see. Any other names that you guys are interested in the remainder of pool? There was so many more players that got traded. Al, who have you got?
I was excited.
Got a couple for you. Jai Sarong, younger brother of Caleb, SuperCoach favourite, traded from the Hawks to Sydney. Hawthorn really held out on this one, which did surprise me a little bit, but maybe they know what he can produce. He's their Box Hill Hawks best and fairest winner. Tall, sort of medium defender, apparently played as a bit of a floating keyback wing sort of role this year, averaged 97 SuperCoach points in the VFL. And just looking at the Sydney team, I think there's a spot there for him, like a tall, that sort of intercepting defender. We'll have to obviously watch how he goes on the field, hopefully get a bit of a look at him over the preseason, but he'll be rookie priced. We're always looking for those cheap defenders for, is he the Zach Reed of 2026? So Jai Sarong, definitely a name to watch. And of course, the big, I can't believe he wasn't in the big names section, Dossie, but Patrick Renchko was probably the surprise of the trade period. Moved from Geelong to Richmond for pick 99, even though the Tigers could have got him as a delisted free agent, but they didn't want to wait. Tried and get him straight down to the club. Been reading a bit about, watching a lot of Patrick Renchko highlights over the last couple of days, and he looks pretty good. He didn't play at all for the Cats this year, but he averaged 86 in the VFL, and he's sort of that hard-running halfback wing type, and there's, I think, a vacancy there maybe at Richmond with Camden McIntosh retiring, so he's got that sort of extra year in the system, will be rookie priced. So as you say, we love the team picker. He's the sort of guy you could just pick on the bench there and watch him over the preseason. But I'm a bit of a Patrick Renchko fan, I have to say.
Had to hit the Nuff alarm there for both of us, Al. Me for Dev Rob and you for your new boy.
This is a full circle Nuff moment as well, because Al has been talking to his little friend there, Dan Batten, as well, down at Geelong, all over this trade. 5 minutes Patrick was given before he was told he would become a Tiger. So real Nuff love in there between Al and Dan about Renchko, and hopefully, because as Al mentioned, rookie priced, extra year in the system, ticks a lot of boxes for a mature age SuperCoach rookie, if you like.
Yeah, I think let's just finish the show, and I have sort of thrown this on you guys late, so I'll give you a moment and I'll go first to collect your thoughts. But what are our thoughts on the players that have left and the other emerging storylines that we'll see in SuperCoach, whether it's for Classic or Draft, but probably focusing more on Classic here? Some other situations that we're excited about seeing how they play out. I'll start with, I want to see some players emerge from Gold Coast now, maybe those depth guys standing up, because as much as you've seen Christian Petracca come in, Gold Coast are now, for me, a massive watch on who else we're going to see be value players, particularly in Classic. Guys that are going to jump up from being the role players that have barely got a game to into the starting lineup. So as much as they gained Christian Petracca into their side, they've lost Ainsworth, who played 24 games. We've mentioned Flanders, 23 games. Fiorini, 18 games. We've got guys like David Swallow, 9 games. Butterick, 19 games, who's off to Western Bulldogs as well. And to a lesser extent, they lost Malcolm Rosas, who played 4. But anyway, they've brought in Track and Ugle-Hagan plus their pick. So obviously rookies are going to be a big watch for Gold Coast as well, who they're bringing in. And the top-end talent, we've heard of Zeke Euland, who's going to the Gold Coast as well, academy pick. But guys like a Jake Rogers, who played 9 games last year, and a Leo Lombard, just the 4 games. Alex Davies, 8 games, and Will Graham for Draft, this is 8 games. But I want to see those guys potentially take their game to the next level. So Gold Coast, for me, as much as we're seeing a lot of guys leave, I now really am excited to see who steps in and fills those void of those players. Because, I mean, Fiorini played a crucial wing role. Flanders was up forward and Ainsworth forward as well. There's roles now that are opening up that we could see some other guys step into, and especially one that I really want to keep an eye on with this new bench spot available, Ned Moyle. Averaged 149 SuperCoach points in the VFL. I don't think he's going to be value enough to pick in Classic because he averaged all right when he came and played a few AFL games this year. But does he eventually take that mantle of number 1 ruck at Gold Coast? So plenty to look at there. Very excited to see that.
Yeah, Jake Rogers, I think, we know, academy kid, averaged 134 SuperCoach in the Coates League, playing for Gold Coast, 108 at the National Carnival as well for the Allies. So comes very credentialed to be his 3rd season at the Gold Coast in the senior team. So he's one we know they do love and very talented. Hopefully he can push his way through. You speak about Zeke Euland, Zeke the Freak. They called him with a big, that's his nickname.
Yep.
A big left foot. Didn't play much footy this year. Stress fracture in his back, but dominated the under-18 carnival as an underager, bottom ager, year before. So he could be ready to come straight and have an impact. Only thing is, your West Coast Eagles, could they do a disservice to SuperCoach and bid on him with one of their first 2 picks, which would raise his price, which we don't want in SuperCoach, but definitely one to watch. Zeke Ulen, I think his kicking adds to that Gold Coast mix.
Yeah.
He can play on a wing and already be an upgrade on Brayden Fiorini's kicking.
I think we've already kind of mentioned Melbourne opening up slots in the midfield, so maybe we won't touch necessarily on that. And that is probably, for me, that also might be the biggest storyline, just to see who moves in there. And you've already had your hot take, Harvey Langford. We're all on board on that. Is it a Trent Rivers? Is it just Jack Steele who goes in there and gets some big points? That is a huge watch, is just Melbourne's midfield in 2026. But Al, do you have something else you're looking at for storylines in 2026?
You mentioned Ned Moyle. I think Liam Reedy's another one to watch he will be, I think, rookie priced ruck. Again, team picker, classic, just someone you can stick at that R3 slot, and it'll be a watch. TDK going out. Does Mark Pitney ruck solo, or does Reedy get a crack at that role, or they play together? We'll see what happens there. But he did put up some humongous numbers in the waffle. So I think he's 25 or 26, so he's ready to go if the Blues give him a game. So he'll be one to consider. And just the Saints, I mean, who knows what they're going to do, what they're going to look like. We talked about Ross Lyon already, where he plays Sam Flanders, but we know Jack Steele's gone. There's openings all over the place. Even Jack McRae got pushed out of the mids towards the end of the season as well. So, you talk about the players coming in. Flanders obviously the number one there for SuperCoach. I mean, TDK probably not, and we're not going to be looking at a Liam Ryan or a Jack Silvani, I don't think. But yeah, some of those potentially cheaper guys, or that you wouldn't maybe pick in Classic because the price is going to be no good. But in Draft, could you consider a Hugo Garcia, or probably one who would be viable in Classic if he can get his body right, is Mateus Philippou. We love what he did in the midfield. It was only in about 2 or 3 games towards the end of not last season, but the season before. Came in last year. Obviously was playing underdone, put up some very low scores, so he'll be sort of under 200K as well, I think. So if he gets a spot in the midfield, potentially pushing forward, Phantom could probably talk about more about what he did around his draft year, what he's capable of, but he's one who could be a massive bargain for us next year.
Chief, your man. Who are you picking him?
Absolutely, I'll be picking him, Al. It's his time. I think the fact that they moved out Jack Steele is probably a sign that they're bringing in the fresh blood. And, I've also mentioned, Paddy Dow, my boy. He should probably finally get a little bit of a role in there if he does. But, yeah, there's plenty of guys that can go through there. I think I mentioned Philippou was my big breakout candidate on our last show. But now that Jack Steele's out of the midfield, I said there's maybe not room for him in there in 2026. Maybe now there's plenty of room. So, one I'm very excited about, Al.
Interesting. What about Campbell Chester going to the Blues as well? We've picked him before. Looks like he's been out of his depth a little bit at AFL level at times, but probably his last 4 games for the Weagles showed something. High draft pick. Blues need some run. He come and slot straight into a wing. Price will be interesting. Pre-season will be interesting as well, but could be some value there. We talk about upside. Could make some money. We know he's not got the runs on the board, but he's been in the system longer and could finally be ready to take that opportunity. Because those last 4 games, that last month before he was traded to the Blues, he showed, or at least reminded everyone why he was taken so high in the draft.
Exciting stuff. We're already deep into SuperCoach 2026 preseason here, Phantom. I've already sort of got my first look draft, getting the notes ready.
When is the team picker out? You mentioned it 2 times. That was definitely specific by you to do it.
It's usually just
team picker. You're the man.
It's usually a nice little Christmas present for us in SuperCoach AFL. So in the week or 2 before Christmas, I'd be looking out for that. But as we were saying, once the draft's locked in, we'll start getting some positions and prices, and those things will start to leak out. So, it's not that far away. We've got a bit of SuperCoach NBA action this week kicking off, and a few other sports going, but AFL will be back with us very soon. One name you touched on right off the top of the show, we didn't come back to him really at all, but Fant, will you be picking Connor Butterick next year at, I reckon he'll be about 240K.
Good price. I don't mind Connor Butterick. I started him a couple of years ago. Was it this year? Did start him. Can win the ball. playing in defence, wins the ball in a contest as well, uses it well. And we know what the Dogs do with their kicking defenders. We know how strong they are half-back and how Beveridge likes to play through them. It's obviously not like a Bailey Dale player, can lock down, win the ball himself, but it is a nice kick. So I wouldn't be surprised if he is a player that can take a next step in his Supercoach average. Can we fit him in at that price? That's the big question. I'm not sure yet, but I'm expecting a bump.
Bevo will do the right thing by us, won't he?
Of course. He is now friend of the Lair, friend of Supercoach, after giving Supercoach a shout out at his press conference at the end of the year. So no, not a bad word spoken about Bevo on this show.
What's coming up in Supercoach then, Phantom? I think we've got through trade period. It's draft next.
Draft is next. Big draft as well. We're about a month away from the draft. And as we've spoken about, plenty of opportunity, plenty of holes in teams there. If they do draft the right players for Supercoach, we know kids will take time, but there are some more ready-made players in the draft. So I'm sure we'll be back here in a month's time to go through that and see where the next gen fit into Supercoach 2026 and beyond.
Can't wait, Phantom. Thanks, Al, for joining us yet again. Any quote cards to finish off? Any famous words to finish there, Al?
Patrick Rechko, lock him in.
Oh, well, and as Al mentioned, NBA Supercoach is around the corner.
Yep, Wednesday. Yeah, I mean, if you're listening to this after Wednesday, then yeah, probably a bit dated, but get your team in if you're hot on the press for this episode.
Definitely. Good way to spend your Supercoach summer BBL coming up as well. But unfortunately, everyone is playing for second in NBA Supercoach, the way the Chief is speaking about his team. And also, Al, I can't believe you've let the Chief run wild. The Haydn Kenny byline will feature across Coast Sports and on the Supercoach app and tell you who to pick in your NBA team. I can't believe it's not on the run sheet to talk himself up, but plenty of content out there to help you pick your NBA team and enjoy your Supercoach summer.
Denny Avdia, that's your nice little pod for Supercoach 2026.
Who's he play for?
Portland Trailblazers. Get around him.
There it is. Get on it. Stay tuned. 2026 Supercoach AFL, not far away. We've already 2 episodes into the pre-season. Let us know what you think. In the comments page, of course, leave your ratings and reviews. Tell us what you want to see when we officially start next year. Do you want to see our stay on the Lair and feature on the Lair next year? The truce continues. Will it continue into the new year? Check back in to find out.